Something really important in social studies is the ability to read and annotate primary sources. So a primary source is any source of information that was created at the time under study. So what does that mean? A source of information might be a diary entry, a news article, a picture, any artifact that was created during that time period. So since we are studying Mesopotamia, which started in 3000 BCE, anything that was created in Mesopotamia during that time period would be considered a primary source. We're going to be looking at a primary source today called the Epic of Gilgamesh. The Epic of Gilgamesh is an ancient Mesopotamian poem. It is thought to be the oldest text in the world, almost 4,000 years old. And because it was created in Mesopotamia during its time period, makes it a primary source. So let's learn how to annotate and read a primary source. You can find this primary source on either 830 or 10-1 class materials and assignments. It is going to be activity 2 for today, which says primary sources, the Epic of Gilgamesh. Once you click on the assignment, make sure you open up the Google document where it'll take you to this page. You'll see on the left-hand side is all about the source itself. And on the right side are instructions and questions. You'll have 5 of those. The first thing that you should always do with a primary source is go ahead and read any background information, as well as just simply reading the text or looking at the photo. Whatever the source is, you're just going to kind of absorb it. So the first thing I'm going to do is look at the background information. The Epic of Gilgamesh is an ancient Mesopotamian poem. It is thought to be the oldest text in the world, almost 4,000 years old. Now I'm going to actually read the source itself. So this is a quote from the poem, the Epic of Gilgamesh. Anu, the sky god, and Enlil, king of the gods, and Shamash, the sun god, held a meeting, and Anu spoke to Enlil. He said, "Because Gilgamesh and Enkidu killed the bull of heaven, one of them must die." Enlil said, "Let Enkidu die, but Gilgamesh must not die." The sun god replied to Enlil, "Now innocent Enkidu must die." Now that we've read the source, we kind of have an idea of what's going on. We know that something's happening with the gods. We know that somebody's going to end up dying. So let's kind of dissect this by answering the questions on the right-hand side. Question 1, read about the source. What makes the Epic of Gilgamesh an interesting source? So I'm going to find something from the background information that I find is interesting, and I'm going to write it in. Something that I think is interesting about this source is that it is almost 4,000 years old. The second activity or action is to highlight the 3 gods in yellow that the source proves Mesopotamians were polytheistic. So as we learn about Mesopotamia, we learn that their people believed in more than one god. That makes them polytheistic. So I'm going to go through this text and I'm going to highlight by highlighting the text, clicking on the highlight button, and in this action it wants me to highlight these yellow. So the 3 gods that I see are the sky god, the king of the gods, and the sun god. And I'll highlight those yellow. Number 3. What did Gilgamesh and Enkidu do that made the gods so mad? Highlighted green. So as I read the text again, I know that because Gilgamesh and Enkidu killed the bull of heaven, that's why one of them is going to die. So I'm going to highlight green because Enkidu and Gilgamesh killed the bull of heaven. In my last class, someone asked what the bull of heaven was. The best way to describe it is the bull of heaven is kind of like the mascot for the gods. It's like what represents them. So it made the gods pretty angry in this story. Number 4, what was the punishment that the gods decided to do to Enkidu? You're going to type that below. You can find this in the text. So we find that the sun god replied to Enlil, "Now innocent Enkidu must die." And so now for question number 5, it's important when we look at history, learning about someone's belief system or learning about a civilization's belief system helps us understand why they did things. Because we learn that Mesopotamians value their gods as much as they do, And they have stories such as the Epic of Gilgamesh that teaches people to respect their gods and, favor their gods. We learn a lot about the people. So in absolutely no way are we asking you to believe this as truth, but rather use this as a source of understanding for why Mesopotamians were the way they were. So our last question is, why would people in Mesopotamia want to please the gods and keep them happy? So I want you to answer that question on your own for number 5. Once you have completed this assignment, please make sure that you go back into Google Classroom and turn it in for credit.